All right. Hello, everybody. This is Justice with Jax. It is season 4, episode 2. I'm your host, Jacqueline Armendariz Unzueta. You can call me Jax. And wow, I have an incredible guest today. And honestly, better late than never. I was like, what? Why did I not have her on sooner? But she's going to introduce herself right after this when I share, like we always do on this show, that the case in which I'm represented by the American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado, Armendariz versus City of Colorado Springs, has now been filed for 968 days, or 2 years, 7 months, 25 days. That includes what we just experienced, which was 287 days or 9 months, 11 days of waiting for an opinion following oral arguments in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit held on May 13, 2025. So what does that all mean? It means there are two very big news nuggets that I get to talk about on the show today. But real quick, even better, I would like my colleague and dear friend to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jax. My name is Monserrat Macias. I am the owner of Consulta, which is a small business here in Colorado focused on helping the Latino community. And I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Jax.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. There's so much to talk about. The two big things are on February 24, 2025, or 2026. Hello. It is the year 2026. But last month, we had some big news in the case Armendariz versus City of Colorado Springs. And then, of course, as I'd shared previously with listeners, it was on the Democratic Party field for County Commissioner District 5, and we're going to talk about what a very challenging experience that was for me, and why I came away number one feeling like I am breaking up with the two-party system, and we're going to talk about that more. There's so much to talk about. But Monse, would you mind sharing a little bit? We know your business affiliation, but you do a lot in the community, and sometimes we're like, share your pronouns and any other community affiliations that you may want to share what you're working on as we chat today.
Yeah, for sure. My pronouns are she, her, ella. And I have lived here in the community for basically my whole life. And I'm now very passionate about language access for the Latino community, specifically the immigrant community. Obviously language access is a huge problem in our society, and it's not just one language, right? It's all the languages out there, but it's just something I'm really passionate about. And so that passion drives me to get involved with the community. Right now I'm getting involved with a lot of just entrepreneurship training. I've been able to do that through Ella Puede, which is a program we have with Centro de la Familia and the Hispanic Chamber. So the chamber's an organization that I recently got involved with, and they're really pushing forward as well that leadership for Latinos and getting us in those spaces where we need to be, where the decisions are being made, so that we can impact and have true representation of what's going on in our community. And so that's really what drives me. I'm here to support people like you who are teaching all of us about politics and sharing their stories so that we can learn and really grow as a community, right? By sharing our stories, by coming
Knowledge
together.
Is power.
Exactly. By experiences, right? And so, yeah.
Thank you. That's a perfect, everyone I know, I feel like is very humble. So I'm like, tell the people what you got cooking. There's a lot going on. And so, starting with the news items that I named, Monse is a very dear friend of mine and was one of my main supporters on the campaign. And so it is really special and weird, unique to me that, I get to share a very important in my life, and it is important to me to bring in other people's voices. And I'm glad Monse is with me here today because part of what we wanted to do to share the news around the case is actually read the American Civil Liberties Union press release about what happened in February, because Here's the interesting part that I was talking with Monse about. The local media here, like the newspaper, the Gazette, when we had a initial decision of a dismissal and then we appealed that, they sure did cover that this case got dismissed as, I guess, a conservative publication that, probably doesn't back people holding police accountable or your civil rights, which is really ironic because this case involves the First Amendment and newspapers and media. Obviously, that matters, but we're in a chaos era, so that's a longer story. But the reason I mentioned that is, that's very glaring to me that the Gazette would, as far as I can tell, choose to cover the dismissal of this case and then not cover the fact that we essentially had a significant victory in terms of the legal process through the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. So this is from February, and it goes, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled on February 24, 2026, in favor of Jacqueline Armendariz Unzueta and the Chinook Center in their lawsuit against the city of Colorado Springs and its police officers over the searches and seizures of their digital devices and data after the activists participated in a march for housing rights. Officers seized Armendariz Unzueta's computers, hard drives, and cell phones without probable cause and then searched them for keywords such as human, right, protest, and cop. They also searched the Chinook Center's Facebook account. The Court of Appeals described the city's search warrants as overbroad, wide-ranging exploratory searches that the Fourth Amendment, that's privacy, was designed to prohibit, and rejected the officers' assertions of qualified immunity. Colorado Springs and its officers must now face accountability for their unlawful conduct in further proceedings before the district court.
This decision makes it clear police cannot seize and search the electronic devices of ordinary citizens without probable cause and without complying with the Constitution, said Tim McDonald, ACLU of Colorado legal director. Our state and federal constitutions were drafted to guard against precisely these types of invasive and overbroad searches. The 10th Circuit recognized the profound harm these searches cause and upheld the foundational principles of our Constitution, which are so important in this time of government overreach and widespread digital surveillance.
In July 2021, Colorado Springs Police Department officers targeted and arrested activists for marching in the street during a housing rights demonstration. CSPD weaponized the minor criminal charges to execute dragnet search warrants against Armendariz Unzueta and the Chinook Center, who participated in the march. Prior to the march, in the summer of 2020, the FBI also enlisted a local police officer to infiltrate the Chinook Center. I've held hope for accountability in my heart every day since we filed this case more than 2 years ago. This decision reaffirms that police must be held accountable for violating my civil rights, Armendariz Unzueta said. No one could have anticipated just how much this case has been a terrible foreshadowing of our political circumstances today. The continued need to fight to protect our civil rights and our democracy is painfully apparent. I am proud to stand with the ACLU of Colorado and my Colorado Springs community as this journey continues.
ACLU of Colorado sued the city of Colorado Springs, the Colorado Springs police officers involved, and the FBI August 2023 in district court, arguing that the searches and seizures violated the Fourth Amendment and the Colorado Constitution. After the district court ruled in favor of the defendants, ACLU of Colorado lawyers appealed in August 2024. I was proud to argue this case at the 10th Circuit in partnership with the ACLU of Colorado, and I am very pleased the majority reached the right result for our clients, said Teresa Warden-Benz of Davis, Graham, and Stubbs. In addition to McDonald, the legal team includes ACLU of Colorado senior staff attorneys Annie Kurtz and Sarah Neal, legal director Demetrius Mark Silverstein, and ACLU cooperating attorneys Jackie Roeder, Teresa Warden-Benz, Hannah McCroy, and Kylie Putnam of Davis, Graham, and Stubbs LLP.
It was a mouthful, but thanks to the attorneys, shout out to them. That's what that last paragraph is about, because obviously they're the ones doing a lot of hard work in this. But all right, thank you, Monse, for helping me tackle that one. What do you what comes to mind when you read that as someone who, I wanted to bring this up in the show too, but what happens politically matters. And I feel like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I, being your friend, imagine that the type of administration we have today, it feels like a threat to just about everyone. And so reading all that and that context, what's on your mind?
I mean, everything that's going on right now, right? I think there's just so much of, I mean, it's been going on for forever, but just the anger of the feelings of reading again what you went through, right? As your friend, I've heard this story and I've read it and I've heard about it in various.
And you actually met me after.
Yes, I did. We met 2021.
Yes.
For sure, 2021.
I feel like December-ish. Yeah.
Yep. And we instantly, I think, clicked. Definitely. We didn't get to connect right away, but then when we did, it was just an instant click, which I love and appreciate. And that was, I think we met and had a very politically driven conversation. Always. Because you shared with me.
You hang out with me.
Of course, and you shared with me you wanted to run for office. Yeah. And, that's when I was like, I'm a DACA recipient. I'm not a citizen. I can't vote. Right. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
No, not at all. We're going to go wherever we want with this conversation.
But, that's something that affected me always. And I never cared about politics because I had no say, right? Up until that point, I was like, I have no say. I can't vote. Why do I even care?
And I remember frustrating. Like,
oh, yeah.
That would make me personally angry. I'd be super pissed about it. Yeah.
And so you changed my outlook that day because you were like,
recognizing it's fucked up. Number one,
you recognized it first of all, which was really nice to because you have conversations with people and people are like, yeah, that does suck or whatever, but and you literally sat there with me and were like, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you made me feel like you listened, which is something that I really appreciate about you. You just make people feel heard.
Thank you.
And so you made me feel listened, and then you explained to me that I could still
There's
volunteer.
So much action.
Not volunteer, right? I could still be involved, whether that meant volunteering, whether that meant educating, whatever that meant. But you opened my eyes up into that world.
Yeah.
And so I remember you asked for my support, and I was like, well, I can't vote for you, so sorry, And then we had a conversation about it. And I was like, well, then I will support you, and that's kind of where the commitment happened. And that was just kind of put there, and our friendship continued. But in that, I just want to say thank you for listening to me, right? Making me feel heard.
Yeah.
And then also taking that time to, hey, let me educate you because no, this is important things. And you can have, and and I have family members that are U.S. citizens that don't really necessarily maybe understand or don't have that engraved in their DNA because their parents didn't have that or sure. It's just first generation, right? And so
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you,
my friend. And I mean, that's definitely part of the mission, like part of why this show exists. It's an educational vehicle. It's about telling collective stories. I definitely, as from the beginning, it's important that it wasn't just me sitting here talking at people, but it's talking with people in the community who are community building. And that's where, I try to strike a balance with the show, which is what we talk about is some serious subjects like what it means to be a DACA recipient. And in this political climate, like, I want you to be able to share about that as much as you wish. And also the balance of being like bringing the light of our friendship and talking about what's good in our lives and helping each other shine by hearing each other, right? Making each other feel heard, hopefully. But do you mind expanding on that at all? What that means for you in this moment, which is, a scary one. I think everyone is feeling stressed and scared for different reasons.
Being a DACA recipient, what that means. I mean, yeah, that's deep.
It is. And that's why I say share what you wish, because like not everyone is entitled to, have a piece of that like preciousness of our inner world. But I think kind of what you were saying, which is something I definitely try to do is just let people know that that's invited. Like you, like when I was listening to you talk about it, I was like, that's so awesome to me. And I thank you for that, because I just would hate for anyone to ever walk away thinking that they don't have a voice, or they don't have an impact, or that they don't belong here or shouldn't be here. And I sometimes struggle with that myself, right? Like I feel like that's part of the challenges around human existence. But so that's, share what you wish about that as much as you wish. Yeah. But I know that's something that caring deeply for you is like, I sometimes get scared for you because I love and care about you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so and it goes back to what you asked, right? I don't think I fully answered the question, because as we do with our conversations, they just go all over the place, right?
Journey, yes.
But it does tie up to the anger, right? Of that's the initial, for not for a lot of people. I think for a lot of people is fear, and fear might be that deep feeling, right? And it comes out as anger because you, whatever that case, definitely, right? That. And so for me, it's that anger of like this police overreach, right? And what's going on in our community right now with immigration and everything happening with ICE agents in our communities. And, you know, this is something not new to me, being an immigrant, being a DACA recipient. For those of you that don't know what a DACA recipient is, so I was actually born in Mexico. I'm a citizen of Mexico. When President Obama was in office, he made an executive order that would allow any children that were brought here by their parents, basically some sort of relief, right? What does that look like? Well, they would give us a social security number so we could legally work, and they would give us work authorization. That's it. That doesn't give you any legal status. That doesn't give you citizenship. That doesn't even give you the opportunity to travel outside the country. I mean, you could go outside of the country, you just can't return.
It's a huge risk, yeah.
Right. And so because of this executive order, a lot of what you hear out there called dreamers were able to benefit from it, right? And you can't just apply from it. Unfortunately, they also flagged this current administration and the state of Texas flagged this as unlawful. And so there's a lot of court proceedings going on right now and things like that. And so there's no way for people to apply for the first time, but if you are a DACA recipient, you can legally work. You can be in the community, but you still don't have that full protection, right?
You're not protected, yeah.
Right. You have to renew every 2 years. You pay the government almost $600 to get that renewal. They do your biometrics. They do a background check. Yeah. They check you, right? They're keeping track. And right now, they're even changing the laws to where you do a yearly check-in.
Oh, wow.
And so
do they charge you for each check-in then?
I'm assuming they will. I don't know yet.
The government takes its money. What they do. Yeah, that is what it does.
Which is what's happening now, right? They're charging people. It's just that government overreach that continues to be here.
There's some really scary things with immigration, which is basically like administrative law. So it's just very different than even the jurisdiction of the case that is mine. We've been discussing, and that's unfortunately what. The overly complicated, not necessary, and really just like xenophobic and racist 100%. At its core, really. So thank you for helping people understand a little bit more about that, because that's where so interesting in that like we became friends and ended up eventually having, I would say, out of many things in common. One thing is that you have been to visit and witnessed a proceeding, I think it was in the Fifth Circuit of the U.S. District Court. I've been over at the 10th Circuit. And so do you mind sharing with people a little bit about your experience and like what you joined? Because I have more to say on where we are with the case. And this is why I feel so passionately about doing the show, that educational vehicle piece, because it is going to get really wonky in a second when I talk about where we are with Armendariz versus City of Colorado Springs. But Monse, the exposure that you've had to this U.S. District Court system, a Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. What was that like for you? Because part of it was the fact that you are a DACA recipient is why you were participating, right?
And I'll start with saying that this experience is coming from someone not too familiar with the court system, with the federal system, which is many of us, right?
Our disclaimer, none of us are lawyers on this show.
Yeah. I was invited by a local nonprofit called CIRC, the Colorado Immigrants' Rights Coalition, which is an amazing organization that helps the immigrant community here with education and a lot of things. And so one of the reps reached out and decided to invite me to go to the
Louisiana, right?
to Louisiana to attend one of the DACA hearings that was happening. And so at this point, I was still very confused about what that even meant. I'm like, is this going to choose? It was in New Orleans, yes. I was like, is this going to decide what's going to happen? You know, I went to this.
Complicated.
It's very complicated. And I didn't know this until then, right? And so I'm like, cool, let's do it. We go. I think my baby was not that old.
She was really new. I remember this.
Yeah. And this was
like
hard.
Your first trip after.
Yes. And this was hard for me to even decide to go, but it was something big for me. It was a big deal. It felt very personal, and it was an honor to even be invited, right?
Yeah.
And so when we show up, there is... First of all, this was put together by Home is Here campaign. So they brought people from all over the country, right? They put us all in. So there was conference. We got together at a church. It was really nice. That was really nice to see a bunch of other DACA recipient leaders, right?
This is what this means. Yeah, that's why it's consequential, because these are not just words on paper. This is like decisions about people's lives.
Yes, and we were there to show, like, we're here. We are here to stay, and we're here to show that we are leaders, and we're here to make our voices heard, basically. And so we show up very early the next morning to the courthouse, and the line is wrapped around the building, right?
Yeah.
They have a numbering system because not everybody can make it in. This is a highly publicized case.
Yes.
So media's there. It's a big deal. So lines wrapped around the whole building. You have to wait. I have pictures where they wrote with a Sharpie, like, you're number one, like, down the line, and up until this number you can go. And so once they were starting to let people in, it was like, okay, we're going to this number and then you can go. I actually didn't get to go into the main courthouse, but I did go inside and was able to be listening in a separate, like, in an adjacent room.
Did you see a bunch of pictures of old white guys on the walls like I did? Yes, okay, just checking.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and obviously the whole court, you can't have your phones, like, all of these things.
It's a very solemn decorum, like, very serious vibes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they're just kind of someone sitting there at the, like, basically guarding us, you know, like, we're just in this room and they're just sitting there, like, watching everybody and whatever. I'm sitting there trying to listen, right? Because I'm an auditory, visual person. Gotcha. And so to me, it was like auditory. Let me, like, try to focus. I kind of grasp some things that are going on. I can hear this guy from Texas is getting grilled. Yeah. Right. He's saying all these things, and the judge is like, well, Texas can't provide any damages. Like, you keep saying there's damages, but where are the damages? Where are these DACA recipients actually providing damages? He's like, well, with our healthcare. And it's like, well, healthcare is universal. Whether they have DACA or not, they're getting healthcare. So that doesn't change things.
Irrelevant.
So he was just getting, like, I from what I got of it, I couldn't see it, but you could even hear the paper shuffling. You know, he was like, I could hear, I could tense. Imagine him, like, sweating and, like, you know, shuffling all his papers.
Texas.
Right.
I can say it's been problematic. Yeah.
And so court is over. I leave thinking, okay, that was good. I think we won, right? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Did we win?
Right. And so we get out and it's like, well, no, we
wait for a decision.
Right. Yeah. They're going to deliberate, and then there's going to be another proceeding. And I was just like, what?
Wait, what?
And then I kind of felt a little defeated, right? Because I was like, I was here and I thought this was going to be a big deal. Yeah. It is, right? But it's like,
this
now
is
we have
so
to wait.
Anticlimactic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my experience.
Well said. All right. So Monta just, like, perfectly described what I would say has been a part of the experience for me as well, which is, like, you're staying strong and, like, showing up and taking up space because, like, you know, the arguments being made, like, matter and they affect people's lives. And also, it's such, like, it's a vast system. And when you really go through every single step of the process, which there are so many that the general public does not know, it can actually be kind of deflating, because when we had this victory on February 24, which only until this podcast today was I realizing that was 30 days to the day of my 39th birthday. So I'm March 24, baby. And I remember one of the distinct emotions were like, hell yeah. And also, because it was like, well, what does this really mean in practice? It means, yes, it's a victory and it's getting remanded to another court. And so where we are, so that opinion from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit came out February 24. Today is March 26, right? Where we still are is waiting for what's called a mandate to be issued. And that is like the action or document that means the jurisdiction of the case is returning to the trial court where it began.
What's the timeline for that?
Excellent question. That's one step. Yes. So the timeline for that is there has to be a deadline involved, because the other party, right, the defendants, which in this case includes the U.S. government, they get a little bit of an extra deadline of 45 days, because what happens is after this deadline passes, it's for them to file a petition. What they get to do is, and now they have basically until April 27th to file that petition. And that would be asking for a rehearing, or a rehearing en banc, which would be the full 10th Circuit again. And so that's one thing that they could do, and they probably would. And they have, the clock is ticking, but they have till April 27th to do that. And that's, again, just kind of a procedural thing that happens, is now that an opinion has been issued, we would need to have the mandate to return it to trial court. And in between that, the other party has the deadline of April 27 to petition and say, hey, we want you courts to consider rehearing it. So we're waiting again.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, what's interesting is, like, again, just procedurally, where could this go? There's potential steps, like they could also seek a petition for certiorari, I think that's how that's pronounced, to the U.S. Supreme Court. And it's like kind of mind-blowing, right, that the next step after that could be that. But again, all of this is just procedurally what could happen. None of this has happened. And so really at the end of the day, it's like, all right, take a win where you have it. And also now it's waiting for that other procedural stuff to happen. And again, caveat here, not a lawyer, but I have asked, again, just process wise, because I think it's important. Like, this is not the stuff that gets like in the police crime drama, right? But this is something that happens to the real people like us, whose lives are now being discussed in federal courts, because what's happening matters.
Yeah.
And so, try to repeat that back to me, please. I was like, I think I covered it, but the bottom line is, yes, back to waiting, and there is a deadline at play. So we'll see what the other party does after that deadline, and we'll know more in April.
And kudos to you, right?
Thank you.
Again, continuing to live on your values of, like, I'm not shutting up, right? Because so many people do. So many people, this is hard. This is so much, right?
Yeah.
And now, even like at the point that you are, it's like, okay, now we continue, but it's not an easy thing. It's not something to where you're just, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
it takes a toll on you, I'm sure, mentally, in many ways. And so kudos to you for sticking through and for sharing it with everybody too, because that takes courage.
guts. I affectionately refer to myself as dumb brave. It's an asset, and you said it. Like, speaking of like something taking a toll and even kind of being a sacrifice in some ways, and like being very public about it. As you know, I went through the El Paso County Democratic Party's caucus and assembly process, and it was such a negative and very concerning experience that I went home after county assembly and unaffiliated after a decade more or less of like contributing to party building in a number of different ways, including, you know, being a voter protection deputy, an outreach lead, an executive officer, a field organizer, like a recall protection effort canvasser, just all this stuff. And I learned lessons, right? And that's kind of what we go through with these experiences as well. They're character building, and you learn a lot, right? And I think it's important, especially as leaders, which is part of the kinship we share. I think that's probably one of the big reasons we clicked immediately, because it's like, oh, she ain't bullshitting. I like her.
She says it just how it is what I thought. And I love that.
Well, I think we're serious about service and making positive change in our community.
We have to talk about things.
We do need to talk about things, and that's where you said it too. This is certainly part of it with the case, in that there are Fourth Amendment arguments that I was targeted for my political speech, right? And then I went on to attempt to work with this county Democratic Party as a candidate, and walked away one of the things feeling like, oh, they just want me to shut up, actually. And so there is so much to say, but really the important piece is that coming away from county assembly, my campaign did not advance through that process through the primary ballot. And after spending a decade with the party, I think I severely overestimated some things. I think I'm saying that right. Overestimating, in that I thought, you know, surely delegates of the party would use like a meritocracy to cast their ballots, and it's obvious that's not what happened. And I said some very serious things that I walked away from this process being very startled in seeing people, again, just kind of not acknowledge the truth because it's uncomfortable. There were 3 candidates in this process, and I had chosen not to go the signature route, thinking that caucus and assembly was very important because it's like one-to-one organizing, and that's, you know, what I'm used to. And also, when there are obstacles like the people that I know who would be delegates for me can't go to county assembly because they're working or they have a family obligation with their kids' tournament, and you try to get proxies and you have no idea if that process even went through. There's a lot of factors that go into that process, which I learned about. And, you know, when it comes to who the delegates end up being, that with some of what I just named there can be very skewed, right? Like a lot of elderly folks, as usual. That's not representative of our electorate, actually. And a big thing I learned from it was just I should and will run as unaffiliated. Again, I should have done that from the get-go because this experience really internalized for me the truth that at the end of the day, attempting to run as an unaffiliated candidate may be challenging because you don't have the party system behind you. And also, you're actually representing the majority of the electorate of voters here, right? Yeah. That, you know, I guess it did take this experience of running through the party system to understand, hey, this is actually not the way. If you're really striving to be representative,
it's not representative,
right? And I really appreciate that clarity, because when you look at the district of County Commission 5, there's about 80,000 voters, and 48,000 of those voters are unaffiliated, and only about 18,000 are Democrat Party affiliated. And so that was a huge takeaway. And I, have so much I can say about that, but I'm here to share the mic a little bit. And I would say, Monse, some of what we already talked about, but this is probably the first time that I'm aware, based on our conversations, right, where helping a campaign to the extent that you did as a volunteer, it is an honor that you stood by me and with us, because as you met the other amazing folks who are supporters. And so what's kind of your take on what you saw from your role in the process? It just went by so damn fast.
It went by really fast. Well, first of all, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. And obviously, you don't think about that if you're not involved in the politics. But I just, going into it, to volunteer and help with you, and you saying, hey, here's all the options and things you could pick from. I'm like, wow, that's a lot, Yes. But it was an honor. It was great to learn from you and work alongside you. It's like you said, it's just, for me, the disappointing part was that it was just not representative of what really is out there. I think if you were really sitting in front of our actual community, speaking what you were speaking, and, we'll be honest, who's really showing up to these events, right? Mm-hmm. And so our people are not showing up to these events like we should be. Yet we do complain a lot about what's going on and what's happening, but what are we doing about it, right? Voting is one of the biggest things, because it, you might think that the elections here, the local elections, maybe don't matter, and it's just there's people that only vote for presidential elections.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so
they don't even go down the ballot. They
exactly.
Just look at the first couple, and it's like, oh please, there's a whole other ballot.
Right. And so just getting out there, making sure that, I think we all grow up, you should vote, like everybody tells you to vote and register to vote, but who's actually getting out there?
Go deeper than that.
Right.
Yes. And what some of my takeaways, of which many, right, there are many, is like, we've got to do better than a race to the bottom. And I deliberately chose to stay as focused as I could on messages that matter, like abolishing ICE and making sure to plan for smart growth in our community, representing and protecting the interests of the working class and the most vulnerable in our community.
Things that actually matter to our
people. Matter. And I also was really shocked and startled coming away from the experience with the assembly. It was just 106 delegates in total, right? That means I had about 20 people support me. And then between the two candidates, they were like evenly split with 40. And so it means about like 84, 85 people like chose to pass on me. And it's like, yeah, that just doesn't feel representative
at all. Yeah.
And then on top of that, what startled me though was, I've actually worked with both of those individuals before. Actually, we've both worked with Yolanda Avila, who is the elder opponent in the race right now, because her and Christian Seal will be on the Democrats' primary ballot for this year in Democrats. County Commission 5, and I chose. There's another route you can get on the ballot. It's to collect signatures, but actually as a grassroots campaign, I thought, concentrating on the assembly process was the best strategy, and lessons learned. And so I remain really concerned that Avila is basically a Joe Biden situation, where they are an elderly person who is unnecessarily taking space especially in the Dem party, where they should be passing the torch and building the bench. As someone who was once my supporter for my run for County Commission 5, who then turned around and actually became my opponent without, talking to me about it. I'm very concerned that she'll flip-flop on constituents like that. And I found it really distasteful during our county assembly speeches that she mentioned me by saying thank you for making her son's memorial programs, which if I thought that was genuine, it would be different. But I frankly think she simply did that to make a contrast to me, because I have been critical of my opponents in the race, and am not a blue no matter who person. And when it comes to the junior opponent who made it on the ballot, really concerning that I've been informed by multiple party members that he's been dismissed from a number of campaigns and then just turned around to run for office, thinking that, people pretty much wouldn't find out or talk about it. And I guess they didn't. And I never wanted to make these things the main things I was talking about, right? And I did my best to speak the truth about my concerns. And it seems like they were pretty much dismissed by that particular pool of delegates. And so thanks for letting me go off, sis. I'm not even done.
Anytime.
Because that's just like some of the party elements, right? But talking to this one delegate who, elderly woman, she's been in her 80s, been caucusing with the El Paso County Democrats since 1982, and referred to the 2026 caucus as the worst, the pits. And just being really disappointed because so many people were telling me that was a terrible experience. Assembly was a terrible experience. Oh. It went over almost like 2.5 hours, and the party left 5 different countywide seats open, unchallenged. So there's going to be like a vacancy committee process. So hopefully there'll at least be someone challenging the Republicans on the ballot. And so the county party after assembly sent out an email that had the headline or subject, right? Like, best assembly ever. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're delusional.
I've heard the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
no.
It was probably most upsetting that, like, again, not as representative. And one of my delegates, who's an elderly woman turning 70 this year, her daughter told me that she went to the emergency room the next day because just this long unplanned day was just taxing on her body. And
That's
I'm like,
terrible.
I think we can do better than that.
Yeah.
And it really kind of hurts me and makes me angry that you're calling this the best assembly ever when I'm hearing my delegates had to like take a day of rest in the emergency room after, because it was just that long, that uncomfortable. And so
if I'm hearing this correctly, it's not always like that.
Yeah, this was my 3rd or 4th caucus, and no, it's not always like that.
Okay.
And I don't think this is probably my 2nd county assembly, and because you don't have to do any of this, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it's a very select group, and it's kind of scary.
We should do this.
We should, but it's kind of scary because most people don't, and then who is?
Right.
And so the county assembly I went to was long, but it was cool, and it wasn't that uncomfortable. And I think the biggest complaint of people at this last county assembly, it was just a lot of like, what the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. And like, this was such a gut-wrenching process for me. It asked a lot, and to come forward and have one of my opponents after, the county assembly process reach out to me and accidentally disclose that someone from the county party shared one of my campaign's confidential emails like with them, which would be a violation of neutrality, which is a rule for them. And it's like, what type of recourse is there for this? Like, sure, I can file a grievance, and then
what's going to happen?
Because that certainly doesn't make me feel like things were neutral, and that I wasn't even possibly being like triangulated against. Check this out. One of my supporters, because the thing about my campaign too, which is like, Democrats, if you were smart, like you'd pay attention to these things, is I brought a lot of unaffiliated people. Mm-hmm. And so one of my supporters who was there as an observer, not participating because not affiliated, and not known to the party, right, was standing next to HD17 Rep Regina English and Yolanda Avila, overhearing them talk and heard them saying, well, at least that's good. Like, Christian will be easier to beat than Jax. And I'm just like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And like hearing other people, like my nominator, tell me that they definitely saw, you know, Christian Seal and his team like really gleefully celebrating that I didn't make the ballot. And then it's not a great feeling, right? And then at the other side of our mouse, it's like, oh, we're not enemies. We're all friends here. I'm like, I'm not really feeling the support, y'all. And sadly, honestly, dude, I went home that day and continued processing. And as someone who's been in unhealthy relationships, I have survived intimate partner violence. I have the skill set now to recognize what that feels like. And it like really clicks deeply. And unfortunately,
it triggered.
Yeah, I would kind of use that word because I started analyzing things and it really felt too uncomfortably close to what it is where you have a relationship. And I've been there where my friends are like, why are you with them? Like, why are you making excuses for them? Like, leave them. And then some of what you might have, and especially for me with the Dem party was like, well, but we have a history and I've invested so much. And
right.
I insisted on giving the Dem party here a chance to practice reciprocity with all that I had contributed over time. And the answer was given, right? Like in my speech, I said, do you want a transactional politician or do you want a freedom fighter who's focused on public service? The delegates cast their votes and they made their answer.
And everybody says that's what they want.
So where do we go from here? Which I would say is like, we're not done at all. By a long shot. So I'm honestly looking forward to what comes next. That was obviously a disappointment. And just to be clear, like there's other minutia that applies, but essentially the fact that I went home straight from county assembly and unaffiliated means that I will not be appearing on a ballot in 2026. But like I said, we're not done. So
it does not end here.
Not by a long shot, because that case is still going on too.
Yes.
This show's going to go on as long as the case goes on, as that's been my commitment. And so, my friend, here's the fun part. Try to balance it out a little bit more. What's good in your life? And any calls to action, anything, again, since this is a vehicle for knowledge that you would invite folks from the public to attend?
Yeah. Well, right now, I just invite everybody to follow what the chamber is doing because we're really working towards helping the Latino leaders here in Colorado Springs, right? So, and if you're not, chambers aren't for everybody, that's okay. But, try to get plugged into the community if it's something that you want to do. There's a lot of leaders here like Jax, like myself, who are here to guide with any knowledge, especially with everything going on right now with our society, our community, with immigration. We need to work as a community. But what's good for me right now, I'm grateful for life, for my little baby, Quetzalita.
She's my favorite.
My husband, all the support, friends like you to keep our community and our, sometimes we just need someone to be there during the hard times. And that's what we have each other for, and also for the good times. So, yeah, I don't...
So well said, my friend. How about give me the website for the Concilio and your business?
For my business is consultanow.com, and I actually just launched my website this week. I relaunched it. So my business has been operating for 6 years. I just hit my 6-year mark in February.
Time flies.
Yes, it really does. And so I decided that it was time to just kind of, upgrade a little bit, and so I just upgraded that website. It's fully bilingual, so you can go in there and just click which language you want.
Love that.
Right at the top. It's very easy to find. And check it out. Let me know if you guys have any events, anything that you want to educate the communities. I am here for it.
Thank you so much, my friend. And so this is where I get to say episodes of Justice with Jax are recorded as a member of the Studio 809 podcast collective at the Nextus community co-working space in downtown Colorado Springs. We're defining co-op autonomy as we pursue our personal dreams in a collective space. So remember to ask yourself 2 questions. Who's telling your story? And how are you being the change you want to see in the world today? This is Justice with Jax, signing off.